today's headlines, don't panic over Delta subvariant. Chinese envoy lauds Marcos. No quarantine scheme eyed. Rotary intensifies fight versus climate change. 250 landless farmers get titles. Caloocan starts vaxxing minors. PITX records more passengers amid lesser restrictions. Good morning, I am Venice Bautista and this is Tribune News on Cue. Today is October 22, 2021 and these are the latest news this Friday morning. The public should not worry about the new subvariant of the highly transmissible Delta strain of COVID-19, which has been detected in some European countries, an infectious disease expert said Thursday. There is a need to study it, but there's no need to panic, said Dr. Edsel Salvana of the Department of Health Technical Advisory Group in a radio interview. Salvana said that the AY 4.2 subvariant detected in Europe, Israel, and recently in the United States is not yet classified as a variant of concern. It is not yet considered as a formal variant. It's just like Delta, but we first need to monitor it before we can say that it is a variant of concern, he said. However, he noted that based on the initial investigation about the subvariant, it is transmissible, but further studies are needed to support the claim it is more transmissible than Delta. Salvana urged the public to continue adhering to the minimum public health standards and get vaccinated to prevent the further spread of the other variant. On Monday, the country logged additional 633 new cases of the Delta variant out of the 748 samples tested on October 16. Data from the DOH showed that the Delta variant remained to be the most dominant in the country at 4,431 or 29.2% of the total sequenced samples. The DOH said it has not yet detected the AY 4.2 sublineage. Presidential aspirant and former Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. recently met with Chinese Ambassador Wang Xilian anew at a new event organized by the embassy where the former senator attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony of the photo wall in the Chinese embassy, where a photograph of his father, former President Ferdinand Marcos, hangs. The Chinese envoy thanked the younger Marcos and his family for gracing the event and called their meeting a great honor. Hanging on the wall are photographs recording historic moments of China-Philippines relations, one of which on top has depicted the historic scene of then Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai and then Philippine President Ferdinand E. Marcos signing the joint communique on the establishment of the diplomatic relations between our two countries on June 9, 1975, Wang said. He added that while they always cherish and honor old friends, they hope that more and more people from the two countries will be committed to deepening their partnership and cooperation so as to bring more benefits to our two peoples and pass on our traditional friendship from generation to generation, he added. The younger Marcos is hoping to succeed President Duterte, who enjoys a warm relationship with China despite its continuous incursions in the West Philippine Sea. In September, the former lawmaker parroted the remarks of the chief executive and said that the Philippines cannot afford to go to war against the Asian giant. Meantime, the Department of Foreign Affairs said it has launched fresh protests against China over its unlawful issuance of radio warnings on Philippine authorities patrolling the West Philippine Sea. Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion and the country's flag carrier Philippine Airlines are spearheading the suggestions to pilot test the no quarantine scheme for returning overseas Filipino workers and tourists from North America in the event that restrictions for foreign visitors will be finally lifted by the country's regulators. In a virtual meeting with Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr., and Philippine Ambassador to the United States Jose Manuel Romualdez, Concepcion stressed that the proposal will address the difficulty faced by arriving international passengers, specifically those coming from North America. He added that it will also help the airline and hotel industry to somehow bounce back from their huge losses brought about by the current pandemic. Inputs from health experts during the said meeting revealed that new infections in the Philippines cannot be attributed to international arrivals, as homegrown transmissions account for almost all of the new coronavirus disease 2019 cases in the country today, while arriving international passengers accounting for only 1.8 cases of the average 6,000 new cases in the country today. Also, data from the PAL disclosed that passengers from North America have been relatively low and that 90% of their North America passengers are vaccinated. Tribune News on Q will be back after these short reminders.
Botomoto Halalan 2022, the Daily Tribune special coverage.
Magandang araw mga katribu! Narito na ang mga makakasama nyo tuwing umaga sa programang Gising Na. Roy Pelevelo, Comfy Manalo, Atty. Lia Badillo Crisostomo, Vernon Velasco, Kim Sancha at Chirk Balagtas. Abangan ang programang Gising Na mula alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga sa Facebook page ng Daily Tribune.
Ilabas ng mainit na kape at samahan kami sa inyong pag-almusal, mga katribo.
Sama-sama natin alamin ang mga natatagong istorya sa mga latest na kaganapan sa loob at labas ng bansa.
Simulan natin ang bawat umaga with good vibes sa mga informative and recreational segments ng aming programa.
Maaari niyo rin ibahagi sa amin ang inyong opinion via Daily Tribune Facebook page at Tribune Now sa YouTube. Makichika na rin sa latest showbiz happenings, mga katribo.
Kaya naman, magkita-kita po tayo mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga at magsama-sama po tayo sa
Gising Na!
We're back on Tribune News on Q. A high-ranking official of the Rotary Club of Manila, or RCM, urged the Rotary Club of Washington to transform its environmental project to plant a tree in honor of their speakers during their weekly meetings into a full-fledged and well-designed program. Joaquin Jackie Rodriguez, former president of RCM, made the call to chapter members even as he commended their initiative to fight the world's growing problem with climate change. Since they have a change in leadership in the Rotary yearly, they tend to have short-term projects than long-lasting, well-planned programs. The Trees for Every Speaker is a beautiful project. Turn it into a program, Rodriguez said during an assembly attended by RCM and DC Rotary Club. Named after their long-standing member, the Peter Gilsey Trees for the Capital is an initiative wherein members of the DC Rotary Club present a certificate to the speaker at each of their weekly meetings, indicating that they have planted a tree in their honor. The project has resulted in the planting of 300 trees so far, all located around the Tidal Basin, National and Memorial Parks in Washington. Rodriguez, who long advocated for environmental stewardship, then requested their counterpart in the RCM can adopt the project in the Philippines, and he expressed optimism that the RCM leadership will back his appeal as he recalled the club's fight for environmental and protection and sustainability in the country. Rodriguez also noted that the DC Rotary Club should also seek help from authorities and push for the crafting and implementation of legislation to protect the environment. At least 250 farmers here got a huge boost as the parcels of farmlands owned by the government will be distributed among them, according to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in Eastern Visayas. The agency recently distributed agricultural land titles covering 9,240.35 hectares to 250 qualified beneficiaries from different barangays under the agency's Handog Titulo program. The land title in their hands is the absolute proof that they are now the rightful owner of the lands that they possess, DENR Regional Director Tirso P. Parian Jr. said. Many of the new landowners inherited the right to till the land from their parents but without the security of ownership, like in the case of 78-year-old Juanito Pallones from Tinambacan Village. Pallones said, and I quote, I am truly thankful to God and to the DENR for having this kind of program that is actually beneficial to us." End quote. Handog Titulo is a program of DENR aimed to expedite the processing and issuance of public land patents to qualified recipients to alleviate poverty and fuel progress and development. Under the program, free patent is given to Filipinos who occupied untitled land for at least 10 years, provided that the land applied for is alienable and disposable. The land rights group Katarungan Eastern Visayas estimated that around 70% of land in Samar Island remains untitled. Caloocan City will soon start vaccinating its minors, or those 12 to 17-year-olds and with comorbidities. City Mayor Oscar Malipitan is enjoining the young population to enlist and book online appointments through the Caloocan City North Medical Center and the Caloocan City Medical Center. Those who will list up can select their desired vaccination site, date, and time of inoculation. Text confirmation or email for the schedule or appointment will then be sent to the volunteers. Malapitan, however, said those who would avail of the free jab should present medical certificates, documents proving their parent or guardian relationship such as birth certificate, and valid ID of the parent or guardian. They must be accompanied by their parents or guardians on the day of their vaccination, and at present, the Caloocan City Health Department noted that more than 22,763 have registered for online profiling. Tribune News on Q will be back. Stay with us.
Botomoto Halalan 2022, the Daily Tribune special coverage.
Watch out for the new episode of the Athletes Tribune Season 2. Diretsahang tanong.
Nela, meron na bang moment sa buhay mo na parang gusto mo na maghamon, pisikalan?
Matapang na sagot.
Nag-abiso lang ako sa dulo na kumain ka ng gulay sis para may sustansya ka, gano'n.
Alamin kung anong tunay. Kasama ang volleyball commentator and former spiker of the UST Golden Tigresses, Mela Tunay. Ngayong Lunes na, October 25, 7 p.m. sa mas pina-exciting na all-new season ng The Athletes Tribune.
Botomoto Halalan 2022, the Daily Tribune special coverage.
You are still watching Tribune News on Q. In other news, now that Metro Manila is under Alert Level 3, the operations manager of the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PITX, Jason Salvador, said the volume of passengers has increased amid the lesser travel restrictions. Although it hasn't reached the pre-pandemic level yet, there is a huge difference now.
Well, unang-una, talagang dumadami na at ramdam natin yung pagbabalik sigla ng land transportation dito sa bansa natin. Bagkus nung pagluluwag ng mga travel restrictions sa mga alert level. No? Although we haven't reached the pre-pandemic numbers, but substantially, talaga naman lumaki na yung mga numero natin. Just an example, nung kahigpitan, nung nagkaroon tayo ng alert level 4 at yung mga may higpit na modified quarantine, nag-average na lang tayo ng 20 to 25,000 passengers per day. Pero nung medyo nilubagan ito at lumagay na tayo sa alert level 3, biglang tumalon, at umaabot na tayo sa 50 to 55,000 passengers per day. Well,
Maintaining social distancing is also a must, and according to the guidelines of the IATF and LTFRB, public vehicles must only accommodate up to 50% capacity. Salvador urges passengers, and not only those who will be using PITX, to adhere to these minimum health standards to avoid super spreader situations. And that wraps up the stories this morning. Before we go, we would like to thank the SM Store, Arnada Center, Department of Tourism, MG Motors, Hina Motors Security Bank, and Overseas Community Affairs Council member Alan Lin of Republic of China for their continued support. Again, this is Venice Bautista, and you are watching Tribune News on Cue. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay at home. Good morning!
Botomoto Halalan 2022, the Daily Tribune special coverage.